Welcome back to the Boys In Bolos podcast. We're down here in the barbershop studio. The fire is pumping. The vibes are nice. Jarrett, is that what we're saying?
Nice vibes.
Nice vibes. Good vibes. But there is it's a faux fireplace, but it is pumping out the electric heat.
We need it. We are pretty toasty. It's like 22 degrees outside, so in the basement is pretty cold. We got hats on.
So in the winter, it's always a chilly 55 degrees, but nice in the summer, but in the winter it's a little bit icy. But this heater gets things going.
We just are finishing up week 26. Leicester and Wolves are still playing right now. They're 1-1 and it's halftime. We were going to wait until they were done, but we're like, you know what, let's just go down and take advantage of the twins are napping and we got some time.
Yep, so, Nora and the wife are out. They're out shopping.
Yes, the ladies Elie.
I'm assuming the boys are sleeping. I mean, they're in their cribs and
we hope they're sleeping.
Yeah, they'll be all right.
Can they climb out of their cribs?
They cannot.
Oh, then we're good.
We're good.
Kind of.
So, big news this week.
Yes.
Spurs beat City.
Spurs did beat City.
They did a double.
And,
City only have 3 losses. 2 of them are from Spurs, which is a whole vibe. But now that Liverpool are playing their game in hand this Wednesday, they will... What? This is fine. They will be very close to them. It's back on. Title race is back on.
Title race is crazily back on. And what was it, 13 points? Like not even 13 points in January? It was 12 or 13 points that City had above Liverpool. Now, granted, Liverpool had some games in hand, so we had to take that into account. But I think at one point it was 13 points. And there was all the memes, and I think we put them up too. It was just that, Pep had turned this into the Farmers League like he did with Bayern and Germany, and it's just kind of like it was over. It wasn't even a 2-horse race. It was over. So what's happened with City then?
They tied a few games, and they lost this game to Spurs, and Liverpool's been playing great. That's really what it is.
This is why I'm not afraid of City. Like in a one-off competitive match or a Champions League tie. I know that we talked about this on the last pod that ESPN FC gave them 25%. They looked at all those round of 16 teams and they gave them 25% or 25 points of 100 to win the Champions League, a 1 of 4 chance to win the Champions League. I just don't believe it. Like, if you watch the highlights of this Spurs City game, even if you didn't see the game, City, once you get in behind them and you get over half field and you get in behind them and you are attacking, you're running at their players, they're not very good. Like, yes, Ruben Diaz is a great defender. I do believe that. But João Cancelo is not used to defending because most times when they play teams, they're just blowing them out and they're on the front foot. Kyle Walker looked like dog shit. The third goal that actually counted, not the one that got taken away, but the third goal that actually counted when Kane scored in the 95th or 96th minute, he just got beat to the ball, and he had better position. If he had just stepped about a yard up, Kane would have had to go through him, which would have been a foul, and the goal wouldn't have counted. So, for me, it's like, also, you said it too, Ederson is overrated, I think. I think he's one of those goalies who doesn't have to make a lot of saves, so he has a good amount of shutouts, and then people are like, oh, he's a great goalie.
He had one solid point-blank leg save on a Kane shot that probably
on a Kane breakaway for sure
should have went in, but just pure goalkeeping, I don't think he's that great, and he's prone to make pretty bad mistakes when he's playing sweeper keeper. He's not the best sweeper keeper, and that's the style of play that they like to play. And so when he comes out, he sometimes makes mistakes, and our city listeners aren't going to love that, but he's not the best shot stopper. And they don't need a fantastic shot stopper, right? They don't need a fantastic goalie because they are playing so aggressively possession-based football. But it looked like whenever Spurs were on the counterattack, which is their game plan all along, let's get this straight. Spurs were never going to go into the Etihad and try to play a possession game with City. It's just not how you beat City. You let them hold the ball, you defend well, and then you be lethal on the counter. And they were. And when Spurs were attacking them, they looked scared. They were dropping back. Their 4 defenders literally didn't know what to do. They were shitting themselves when Kulusevski was playing on the wing, and you got Harry Kane running in the box, and then they just were putting balls to the wings, and I don't know. Kane and Son are back playing well together, and I think they were combined for their 36th goal together. I think they tied the Premier League record yesterday, and it was just Spurs had 5 shots on goal, 6 shots on goal, and City only had 4. You look at the stats. Look at the stats.
So what did City have? Like 21 shots, but only 4 of them on goal.
And 2 of those were one of the goals was the first goal was a Lloris blunder. He should have just held onto the ball, and he pushed it out in the middle of the box. And the other goal was a penalty. I mean, yes, it was a legit handball in the box, but what else was Romero supposed to do? He was blocking his face. I mean, he was supposed to take it off the face, like whatever. Like it happens. So 2 of those shots were literally should have never even happened. Like, so I mean, it's all about creating. I mean, their XG was probably high because they had the ball close to the 18-yard box a lot. But when you whip balls in and you got all your forwards aren't above 5'9", Dyer and Romero and Davies are gonna head the ball out. And Kane was playing really well as number 10 yesterday. He was in the box a lot defending. I mean, it was just you could tell that Spurs had a game plan, and it was let City do what they always do and then just defend really well and be super disciplined, and they were.
I think it's gonna be a long season for City fans because City fans are tired of. If I'm a City fan, it's like cool to win the Premier League, but what they really want is the European title, and they got so close last season. And the season before, they were in the semis, and I think the season before that's when they lost when Sterling had the howler where he just missed the sitter. So that's kind of their quest is European dominance, and I just don't see it happening over 2 legs. And even in a final game, I think that there's a remedy out there to beat City. You play a 3-5-2. So like you said, you just have 3 lugs sit in the middle and then just invite balls into the box. That's not that difficult to play against. I mean, Chelsea has done that for years, and not with a 3-5-2, but we've let teams especially in the Champions League, for example, Barcelona. Whenever we played Barcelona, Messi once said, he's like, I don't want to play Chelsea. They're the worst because they let Barcelona do what they want to do, and then they just hit them on the counter. And I'm just not convinced. Like, okay, let me rephrase this. What do you think the chances are that City don't win the title now? Or that they do win? You can say it in one of 2 ways.
I think it's a 50-50 chance they win the title.
You think it's 50-50?
50-50 between them and Liverpool. I think Liverpool strengthened their team in January transfer window, and City actually slightly weakened their team because they let Ferran Torres go to Barcelona. Slightly weakened.
The thing you said about Ederson, I wonder if City fans would disagree with you. I don't think they're going to be angry about that at all. Like, I think they're fairly aware of Ederson's strengths and pros and cons. And there's a reason why Alisson plays for the Brazilian national team and not Ederson, right? So Alisson also, ESPN FC put the stat up, says Alisson now has as many Premier League assists as Jota, Mane, and Thiago this season after he gave that ridiculous dime piece to Mo. And obviously Mo had a lot to do, but he was the one who sprung that ball out of the back. Liverpool, to me, if I guess we put it like this, once again, energy thing. Liverpool have no pressure. They're just chasing this gargantuan juggernaut that is City. They have no pressure. City have all the pressure. It's always 3 times as hard for the dog that's on the top of the hill to have to fight off the other dogs below them than it is for the one dog to try to knock off the dog on top. So I think they really have their work cut out for them. And I once again wonder if this is, only playing false nines is actually going to come back to hurt them, because maybe they need that body in the box that will figure it out, because otherwise teams are just going to stack a line of 3. Whether you do a 3-5-2 or not, you're just going to drop back a center mid in a 4-4-2, and you're going to invite balls in the box, and, whatever. I think Lloris obviously maybe was the player of the game in some ways. He had some crazy save. The save he had on Gundogan was just unbelievable, world class. And that game, so many people texted us and were texting me after about how ridiculous it was, even for the neutral. I mean, I had no dog in the race, but obviously I was so happy that Tottenham did win, because I think it's good for Tottenham, and it also keeps the title race alive. What does Pep need to do to win? Because they must look at the stats and they're like, well, we had 75% possession or whatever. I think it's 72%, but I'll round 3%. We had 75% possession and we had 21 shots. Obviously, yes, let's try to get more shots on goal. But other than that, I don't know what else City could have maybe done better. Obviously, defend better, a little bit better. But I don't know other than that.
Some of the balls...
Was Tottenham lucky is my point. Was Tottenham lucky for that result?
No, but I think that a 2-2 draw or a 3-3 draw would have been fair as well. I think Spurs walking out of the Etihad with 1 point would have been a victory for Spurs. I think they would have been very happy with that. I think a win is fantastic. They didn't deserve to lose by any stretch of the imagination. They went in there with a game plan. That was their game plan. They literally probably said, guys, don't get worried. Conte probably told them, don't be afraid of seeing 70% possession from City, because it's all about how you attack. It's all about what the presence you have in the midfield. And let me tell you something. Some of the passes out of the back from City were dog shit. That pass out of the back, the reason why Spurs scored that third goal was because Kyle Walker gave an absolute hospital ball shit pass that Spurs intercepted and then turned into a counterattacking play. That's it. Their defenders aren't good enough, and they have a bunch of false nines in Foden and Mahrez and Gundogan,
Gundogan, whatever.
They got a bunch of players who are basically the same player, all just passing around and making cute runs and doing all this and stuff. And it works against teams that aren't disciplined enough or don't have very good defenders, and they'll win a lot of games. They're going to win a lot of games. I don't know if it's enough to win them a Champions League, and I really think one of their biggest problems is Sterling doesn't show up for big games. I think Sterling is a very good player, but I think that if he doesn't figure out how to score a goal in a really big game, or have one of his best games in a Champions League semifinal or final, then they're not going to win the Champions League. And it's great he can score 2 goals. He can score a worldie against, some Farmers League team. Or
Sporting Lisbon.
Sporting Lisbon, yeah, great, wonderful. He does great when the pressure's not on. But as soon as you put the pressure on, all he can do is run really fast and get the ball to the touchline. But then what? What does he offer after he gets? He's the most frustrating player to watch, and I think a lot of City fans feel the same way. I don't think that's a revelation for City fans to say Raheem Sterling doesn't show up. He'll get a ball in the 6 and put it over the net, like shit like that. Like that's just his MO. And that's what they're kind of missing. They're honestly missing a number 10. And I mean, a number 9, sorry, because I have a 10 in Grealish and supposedly, but he didn't play yesterday.
And De Bruyne.
But De Bruyne played more as a box-to-box midfielder yesterday. He was not playing as a 10 yesterday. He was honestly kind of invisible yesterday. Like, we weren't saying, like, he didn't play bad. He distributed the ball. He did what he had to do. He did what the game plan was for him, but he did not put the ball, he didn't put the ball in a lot of dangerous areas yesterday. He moved the ball side to side, and he just didn't make any mistakes. I think De Bruyne plays better when he's playing as a 10, and I think that just wasn't his role yesterday. I think, I don't know I think they have a lot of players that are really good, and they have a lot of players that do a lot of the same thing, but they're missing that X factor. And they could have got that from Kane. They didn't make the right bid, and they didn't strengthen they got rid of Torres, and they didn't strengthen in January. So
they got rid of Torres. They also got rid of Kun Aguero. They let a club legend go. And it's the same thing that happened with Chelsea. We let Drogba go after he won the Champions League, and then we had kind of like a weird season. We did win the Europa League that season, but we needed to go out and get Diego Costa because we needed that big body up front that's just going to like be annoying, get a header in, et cetera, et cetera. Let's move on and talk. Let me
just ask you one question now.
Yeah.
We've brushed on the Champions League a little bit, and if we both agree that City don't have the X factor to get them over the line, what is the next team? Is it Liverpool? Is it PSG? What team is it?
I think the teams that will win the Champions League, if it's not City, are short list. There's only 3 or 4 other teams. I think Bayern, but I think that's just kind of like they're always going to be super competitive. Robert Lewandowski's having one of the best moments a soccer player's ever had in any career. Messi, Ronaldo, etc. He's just looking freakish. I also think they have a kind of an easier, like it's not as competitive as maybe the Premier League. Liverpool for sure, because I don't think Liverpool in the Champions League and the Premier League, I think that they're still being overlooked because everyone assumes it's going to be City, and I don't think that I think they're still kind of not underdogs, they're just not favorites, and I think that that's where Liverpool thrive, and I say that because I think that's where Chelsea thrive too.
They're sleepers.
Chelsea has 4% chance to win the Champions League. We love that. Give me lower percent. Knock me down a peg
but
more.
Like, what about PSG? Like
PSG is the serious conversation because when they played the other week against Real,
yeah,
and I think Real's a little slow. And we've talked about this that their middle three with Kroos, Casemiro, Modric are kind of weathered, and they've been around doing the same thing. But they looked unbelievable, and a lot of this is Kylian Mbappe. Messi, L'Equipe, the French, I think that's the French newspaper or whatever. L'Equipe, it's the media outlet. They gave Messi a 3 out of 10 after that game, which I thought was super brutal. And
that's harsh.
And I do think the French press is just brutal and whatever. They don't like Messi for whatever reason. He's not French. I don't know. They gave Mbappe, who played amazing and scored the winning goal, for example, only an 8. I mean, I think I'll give that guy a 9.5 because
that move he did in the
he literally won the game. He was the X factor. So they only give him an 8 to give you an idea of L'Equipe's thoughts there. So I think PSG are my favorites right now because they have Mbappe, who's probably on his last year, so he's never been more kind of motivated to bring the first Champions League to Paris. That way he can also leave on a good note. They have Neymar, who I find to be very annoying sometimes to watch, but I still know pound for pound he's got some of the most skill on the planet, top 5. And then they have Lionel Messi, my greatest of all time, who I just think at any moment could hit a free kick and drop a dime into Mbappe or Neymar. And then they have the real most underrated player in the Champions League, I still believe, is Di Maria. Di Maria is he's one of the reasons why Real won it in 2014 after their drought for a long time winning the Champions League. He's the reason why Argentina won the Copa America. Obviously, Messi won the player of the tournament, had the most assists, the most goals.
They got Neymar off the bench.
Yeah, and they got Neymar. Neymar came off the bench. So that team just looks so freakish. And Marco Verratti, other than N'Golo Kante, is the best holder in the world. So I think that they look really good. They also have Donnarumma in goal. The guy's 22. He's a stud. So for me, PSG are actually my favorites, but they also got, I think, only 10% chance, but that's just because that they matched off with Real. With Man City facing off against Sporting Lisbon in the first round, their chances were higher. For me, my money would go PSG, Chelsea, and then City, just because I'm not going to put money on City from like an ethical standpoint. I just can't do it. But I think Chelsea are sleepers. We have basically the same team that we had last year. I'm not saying that that's good necessarily because I don't even know if we were the best team when we won last year. We just won the tournament. Like, you don't have to be the best team in a tournament to win a tournament. But anyways, I'm going on and on about the Champions League. But does that seem accurate to you?
Yeah, I wouldn't give Chelsea the same percentage of winning as they did last year just because they don't have Reece James and Chilwell. And I know Chilwell didn't play a lot in the Champions League games, but Reece James, I think, pound for pound, maybe the best right wing back in the Premier League when he's healthy. So that's the only thing. I also think that Timo Werner had like a sneaky good season last year. And I know he didn't score like a ton of goals, but he was a problem for a lot of teams. And he had a lot of assists and stuff. And I just don't think he's getting the run that he should, honestly, because Lukaku. And I don't know what Tuchel likes about Lukaku. If Tuchel's getting some kind of direction from, like the management or something about playing their $100 million player, but it's hard to watch Lukaku. I think there was a stat yesterday that said he only had 7 touches in the entire 90 minutes yesterday, and one of those was kickoff. So 6 touches in the game. 6.
At halftime, he had 2 touches, and one of them was kickoff. That is like... And it says no player has managed fewer in a full 7 touches in the game. No player has managed fewer in a full 90 minutes since the data became available in 2003, 2004, which is just absolutely insane because I literally think Mendy had more forward and like passes completed than maybe Lukaku did.
I think Lukaku had 1 shot on goal, but it didn't count because somebody was offside.
Somebody was offside. He had that hammer that he just hit.
And then Ziyech tapped in, but it wasn't counted. I'm happy that Ziyech is getting a run because I think that he's getting his confidence and he's finding like kind of like his rhythm in the Premier League, even though he's small and still gets muscle off the ball. I think Christian Pulisic, he's getting put into a position where he's not really playing his position, and it's tough for him. We don't have to talk about Chelsea, but I did want to bring up the whole Lukaku thing because it is one of the. I mean, classically speaking, I mean, Transfer Market put up something on Instagram this morning about all the $100 million or more transfers and whether those ever worked out for teams. And you got Griezmann and you got I think Neymar and
Dembele
and Coutinho, all these transfers that have been basically flops. Grealish is on there. None of them have really had the impact that they probably hoped for when you make that kind of transfer, and Lukaku's on that list. I just don't think you go from scoring 20-plus goals in Serie A to maybe having 5 goals or something in the Premier League. I think he may have 9 goals overall in all competitions. I mean, granted, he could score the game winner in a semifinal in the Champions League, and then maybe that $100 million is worth it, right? We don't know. We don't know what the future. But as it stands right now, I think it's a poor buy. And one of the big reasons I think it's a poor buy is because it's not giving the run that other players like Werner and Hudson-Odoi maybe deserve, right?
Yeah, I think Werner's going to leave. It's been rumored that Werner wants to leave because he's not getting the run. And if I'm Werner, or I'm Pulisic, or I'm Hudson-Odoi, or I'm Havertz, or I'm anybody in Chelsea that is possibly losing time to Lukaku, and you watch and you see that stat, everyone is hyper aware. We live in a world where data runs things. It runs how we make our decisions on and off the field. And if I'm Werner and I see that, if Werner doesn't, let me just say this, if Werner doesn't start the next game, I don't even care who we play. In the next competitive thing, if Lukaku starts and Werner doesn't, if I'm Werner, I am talking to my agent. I want the hell out of there because it's unbelievable. He has played, Lukaku, 17 out of 26 matches played. He scored 5 goals. I actually think he scored the same amount of goals as Reece James, and Reece James has been out 2.5 months, and Reece James is a defender. If you watch that game, the touches is one thing. He gets beat to the ball all day long by subpar Crystal Palace defenders. And he's supposed to be this big, strong forward who's going to, have a good hold-up play and link in with other people and other fast guys like Pulisic or Hudson-Odoi running off. So my thing with Lukaku is that also he doesn't show up in big games. And if you're a Chelsea player, we play in big games. Now, I do want to take that back and say he did score in the Club World Cup. I do need to say that. But the Club World Cup is as big a game as you want it.
Palmeiras is maybe a mid-table at best Premier League team.
They are a mid-table at best Premier League team. But he did score in that. I had posted actually in the Boston Facebook group, Lukaku's a lug once again, and then literally scored 5 minutes later. So we'll see what happens. I don't know what they're going to do with him because he is such a bad investment. No one's going to want him. Inter's not going to buy him back, even though he wants to go back to Inter. And if they do, they're going to say, yeah, we'll give you $30 million for him. Only because he's a younger dude. That's it. Because he's not worth anything more than that.
What's the contract like?
I don't even know what the contract's like. But we need to get him off the books this summer if we want to go out and get something different and go in a different direction. Because as the Inter, I think, president said, there's no difference on the field between Dzeko and Lukaku. And Dzeko was on a free, and Lukaku got us 130 million US plus because it was in pounds or whatever. So I don't really know what happens with Lukaku. One of the things I actually wanted to talk about this week, the City and Tottenham game was as good for me, if not better, than the Liverpool-Chelsea game that ended in the 2-2 when Christian scored in the 83rd because that was just awesome to see. I want to talk about Everton. Now officially, we are going to dub them in the relegation race. They have a couple games in hand, but they're hanging around.
2 games or 3 games.
2 or 3 games. But they're still hanging around the relegation, and the sludge is starting to thin out there too as well. Because Norwich, Burnley, and Watford, it's going to be a battle between them really to see where they finish. I think all 3 of those will be relegated. But it's like Everton and Newcastle are right above the cusp. Newcastle, since they made their buys, have definitely come out of the relegation if you look at the table. But they have Trippier who got hurt, so that doesn't help them. So yes, Newcastle is currently out of the relegation. But for me, I'm just kind of worried about Everton. I don't want to see Everton get relegated.
Well, let's look at some real stats because what we're talking about here is whether Everton can score goals and whether Everton can keep goals out. And if you look at their goal differential, that isn't the case. They're negative 19, negative 12.
They're negative 19 in goal differential. They've had negative 12. I keep reading.
Newcastle's negative 19,
yeah.
And I'm not going to count Newcastle because they've stopped giving up a lot of goals since they've bought the players and all that stuff. But so all those goals are the first 20 games of the season, right? But I mean, there aren't a lot of teams, if you go look up the table, that have a worse goal differential than them, besides Leeds. And Leeds is trending downward after their 4-2 loss today. You got Brentford, Leeds, and then everybody else is negative, between -6 and -5. Spurs are at 0. I mean, they're right where they, in terms of goal differential, right where they should be. Maybe 14th. Maybe with their games in hand, they get back up to where Crystal Palace is or where Brentford is. But Everton aren't good. They can't keep the ball at the back of the net. Jordan Pickford can only do so much. And they make a lot of errors, and they don't score a lot of goals. Even with DCL and Richarlison in there, their midfield is just weak. I mean, Donny might bring them a little bit of stability, but when you're bringing Dele Alli off the bench, who's not that great, and he's just not going to give you, so the problem is he's just not going to give you any kind of spark, right? And Frank isn't experienced enough as a manager to give them that honeymoon period that they need to to make them a stable mid-table team. So there's no real solution for this team because they didn't particularly strengthen that much to make a difference in the January transfer window.
I'm still surprised that Franklin took the appointment because what the hell are you doing, dude? Since he's taken the appointment, and I'm really not sure. I'm just going to tell you, in the year 2022, the year of our Lord, this is these scores. They have lost 3-2 to Brighton. They have lost 2-1 to Norwich. Norwich is the bottom of the Premier League. They lost 1-0 to Aston Villa. They lost 3-1 to Everton to help they lost 3-1 to Newcastle to help Newcastle get out of relegation. They beat Leeds, which I thought was actually a great game, and I thought that they looked good. Then they lost to Southampton 2-0. And it doesn't get easier for them. Like, they're not making it easy for themselves, and this is why, I don't even know if Franklin's going to get to the end of the season, because then they play City, loss. Tottenham, probably a loss. Wolves, probably a loss. They play Newcastle again. If Franklin loses those 3 games from City, Tottenham, and Wolves, and then loses that Newcastle, he should be fired. He should be full on fired, because you got to take points against some of those teams, even if they're ties against Wolves and Tottenham.
There's just no conceivable way that this Everton team is going to nick points off of top teams. This team, they got to get to the end of the season, stay out of relegation, and just invest a little bit of money and find a coach. I don't know if it's Frank. I don't know. Frank, he couldn't get it done with $900 million in the field. He's good in a system where he's bringing up young players that listen exactly. He's not good at managing talent, and he needs kind of that. That's why he did so well with bringing up Mount and Hudson-Odoi and the young kids from the academy, is because that's kind of his. I think that's his thing. I don't think it's taking on Everton mid-season. That's
because since he's taken them on, they've dropped. They've gone from 12th or 13th, which was not where they wanted to be, all the way down to 16th, 17th. So, anyways, do you want to look at?
I think the bottom line. I think Everton are just going to kind of do what they've been doing, ebbs and flows, right? So they're gonna win a game, lose 2 games, but they're never going to really go up the table. I think this is where they are.
Exactly.
16th
this is why I'm
place
declaring
team.
them officially in the relegation.
But I think they're
not going to be relegated though, just because of the sludge below because Norwich, Burnley, and Watford are probably worse. That's all.
That's it.
But it's not because if they don't strengthen essentially this summer and they stay in the Prem, they will be in trouble next year, assuming that Fulham come back up and Mitrovic continues to score 45 goals in a game, because apparently that's what happens in the Championship. Let's look, however, at the week coming up. We have week 27. We start this Friday, and actually, do you want to talk about the games that are happening midweek?
Yeah, we got a couple of makeup games. We got the Burnley Tottenham snow bowl delay game when Burnley couldn't get their field together for a snowy day. That game, I predict, Spurs will probably win, but only in the 90th minute, 1-0 because it's Spurs. Crystal Palace Watford, that's going to be probably Crystal Palace. I assume Conor Gallagher will be back, and they missed him in the midfield this week. even though I think Chelsea are a better team. I predict Crystal Palace will probably win that game. And then Leeds and Liverpool. Leeds coming off a 4-2 loss today against a United team that didn't look particularly great. I mean, they were better, I think, than recent form. But either way, I think that Liverpool will just roll over them. And then, Friday, and then we got an Arsenal-Wolves game on Thursday. And that's going to be a good game. I think that's going to be very telling about whether Arsenal are legit, top 4, top 6 type of team, or are they just kind of pretenders? And because Wolves are good. Wolves, I think, just scored, and they're winning 2-1 now against Leicester. So I think Wolves have been very impressive to me, especially defensively. I think they're pretty solid. And, Podence is a problem, and, if Jimenez is scoring, that's a problem, and Neves is really good. So I think they're going to cause problems for Arsenal.
Arsenal also beat them the first time around.
Yeah.
So they would split points there. The Friday, the 25th, year of our Lord 2022, we start with Southampton versus Norwich. This game is going to be played at St. Mary's, so I'm going to go with the Southampton 1-0 win.
Absolutely. No, 2 or 3-0. 2 or
3-0.
I think Southampton
are bad, or
Southampton's in a good run of form. I think Spurs were getting a lot of flack for losing to Southampton 3-2, but I think Southampton's a lot better than what people are. And they're putting, I have to eat my words because I picked them in relegation, but they're playing really well. I think they're finding a moment right now and at a good time and taking points off of teams that normally they would either tie or lose to. So I think they're a lot better than Norwich. Norwich is not good, and they'll win 2-3-0, especially at home. Although they haven't been great at home, but
they have been good.
They have been good.
They have been
good.
That's
a team that's been really good at home.
Exactly. They've had some of the best home in the season. So the next game will be Leeds Tottenham. Leeds will probably be coming off 2 losses. They lost to United today. They will probably lose to Liverpool. And they're going to play Tottenham. This game will be played at Ellen Road, which was jumping after they scored 2 goals in 24 seconds today against United. They couldn't get that done. I'm going to go with Tottenham, though. I also want Tottenham to do better. I think that they're underachieving. While other teams in the Prem, like Wolves even maybe are overachieving, West Ham I still think is overachieving just a little bit, a couple positions. Tottenham has been underachieving. Finally, we saw the resurgence of Kane and Son, and that's scary. Because those 2 dudes in the history of the Premier League, they're the best duo of all time. So I think Tottenham win this game, but I think it's going to be close, probably 2-1.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's going to be a little bit of a reshuffling of the lineup because they're going to play. They played yesterday, then they're going to play Wednesday. Actually, I think there'll be more shuffling on the Wednesday game, and then they'll be back to like a full lineup, starting 11 type of thing on a Saturday. But it's going to be tough. I think Kane was hurt a little bit. He got like a back thing and during the game yesterday, and I don't know. I would love to not see like Kane have to play 90 minutes of every game. Honestly, if they can get up to Burnley, if they can score 2 goals in the first half, I'd love to see Kane come out in the 60th minute, 65th minute of that Burnley game. But realistically, it's Spurs, and they rely on him for everything. I mean, he's playing as a 9 and a 10 a lot of the times, switching off. So it's tough. I mean, it's not a farmers league, so Burnley are still tough even though they're at the bottom of the table. They're pretty decent. Like their defensive structure is pretty good. They don't give up a ton of goals. I mean, they know they're in the negative goal differential. But
Leeds?
No, I'm talking about Burnley midweek. So I'm just kind of positing about the Leeds game, about how whether Kane will be and Son fatigued for that game. I don't know. I agree with the scoreline, but I think it's going to be not as clear cut as it says on paper.
I mean, 2-1 isn't clear cut. Not at Ellen Road. No. So, next game, Brentford Newcastle. Newcastle are now out of relegation and they're on the way up. Brentford are sitting in 14th. I'm gonna go with this game. This is gonna be at Brentford. I'm gonna go with Brentford winning this game, 1-0. I think it's gonna be close. 1-0 or 1-1. What are you thinking?
I'm agreeing with you. I'm gonna say 1-1. Brentford give up a lot of goals, and that's just the way that they're going to have to outscore Newcastle, so they're going to give up a goal or 2. I'm going to go with a 2-2 draw in that one.
Brighton Hove, Aston Villa. This is going to be at the Amex.
Not great, but Brighton either. It's funny. Brighton lost this week, and it I said to you, I finally think that Brighton they were overachieving, punching above their weight, and now they're kind of dropping to where they should be in the table. So, and Aston Villa, they had a little bit of a bounce when they brought in Coutinho, but I still think they're like a very, very 10th to 12th, like mid-table team. And they're going to win. They're going to nick a couple points off top teams, but it's going to be a dogfight for them, kind of like up until the end. So I honestly this could be another draw, another push, 1-1.
Next game, Crystal Palace, Burnley. This is up for potentially mini bat because I don't think Crystal Palace are much better than Burnley, but I don't know if Crystal Palace...
Is that Turf Moor?
It is at Selhurst.
No, Burnley.
So Burnley's going to lose this game. I just like when Crystal Palace have won. Crystal Palace have beat City this year. They've beat Tottenham this year. They took Chelsea to like the final minutes. They're not easy to play at Selhurst. No one really wants to go to Selhurst. People are like, oh yeah, we'll go to London. We're not going to the Emirates. We're not going to Stamford Bridge. We're not going to go to Tottenham Stadium. We're not going to go play the Hammers. This is going to be the easy one. You can't sleep on this team. Zaha's a very good player. I'm still so surprised that Crystal Palace can keep him there. I am going to go with Crystal Palace, but I think it's going to be a mini-back because I don't think Crystal Palace are the team that necessarily can dominate you. When they beat Spurs, when they beat City, they weren't ever in control. They were just able to nick goals. So I think I'm going to go 2-0 Crystal Palace, but I think it's going to be one of the worst games of the week to watch.
Yeah, I don't have much to say about this. I don't think Burnley are very good, and they have to go to Sellers, so they'll probably lose.
Next game is Manchester United, Watford. So United are in pretty good form in the sense that they're winning games even if they don't dominate teams, which I think is the sign of a good team. What are you thinking on this one? This is going to be at Old Trafford.
They seemed better today. I mean, they had to go to Ellen Road and play a somewhat depleted Leeds team, in my opinion, but they still got 2 goals scored in them. So, yeah, I mean, it looks like they have guys scoring goals. Fred came off the bench. They had Alanga, who scored a goal. Maguire had a header on a set piece, and Bruno Fernandes scored. So you're getting contributions from all over the field. I mean, they're not. I mean, we rag on them a lot, but they are better. They're better than Watford. There's no chance Watford are going to win this game. I mean, I just don't see it happening. Even Ronaldo should have had a goal, but Meslier had a crazy save. So like a crazy point blank save that I don't know how he kept it out. But yeah, I 3-1. I'm gonna say.
Sounds about right. I mean, United are just. I think to be either of a Manchester United or a Manchester City fan right now, it's kind of like meh. They're not really like both teams don't really do anything for me. The next game is going to be Everton, Manchester City. Manchester City are going to win this game. They
have something to prove.
Yeah, I mean, Goodison is not easy though. I mean, if Franklin were to take a tie here, that might keep his job. Like I said, because then they have to play Tottenham and they have to play Liverpool, I think. So Everton really need a point here. If they were to somehow win, and Liverpool win midweek and win on the weekend, Liverpool and City are tied even, which would just be hard for me to grasp because I'm sure there's a bunch of people that put a lot of big money bets when City was up by 13 points in December. So we'll see what happens here. I would assume there were 3-0, a 3-goal differential here over Everton because Everton are just not doing it right now.
My game of the week and the last game of the week is the West Ham Wolves game. And are we going to see – I think Wolves will play solid, very consistent. I think they'll take it to West Ham. Are we going to see the West Ham team that was, vying for top 4? Are we going to see the West Ham team that has been, as of late, kind of floundering a bit?
I think it all has to come – it doesn't all depend, but some of it does depend on how Wolves plays against Arsenal midweek, what that looks like as far as – minutes, what guys get minutes. Well, really, what team do they show up with London Stadium? Because playing at London Stadium against West Ham is not easy. Probably one of the most uncomfortable places to play, maybe in the Prem right now, other than Anfield. Because I don't know. It's just I every time we play West Ham there, I hate it. I absolutely hate it. So,
I mean, the bubbles, right? The bubbles everywhere.
The bubbles. I'm just gonna go.
It's a whole vibe.
I'm gonna go 1-1.
Okay. I mean, for me, I'm sick of West Ham. I'm sick of it. I'm just tired of the whole thing. I'm tired of David Moyes. I'm tired of Mikel Antonio.
It's so crazy that David Moyes is there. After like the stories that I heard from United when he was there, and he just had like no control of the players, and he just like wouldn't even in training. He was just like making jokes and not taking it seriously. I feel like he went to a serious career coach after that, because what he's doing at West Ham is impressive to me.
Right, and they're showing their squad thinness, as I've alluded to in the past. They lose a player, lose a Declan Rice, or and if that happens, they're in trouble, because Zuma's not it, right? Zuma is not a stalwart center back.
Zuma may not play anymore because of this cat situation.
This cat situation really blew up his face, but he did play this weekend, and he looks suspect. He's not a very good defender.
I haven't seen that video. Have you seen that video?
Oh no, I don't watch stuff like that. It's upsetting.
I haven't seen it. I
don't want to see it.
But I just love when all the players come out and they're like, why is he getting more ragged on for kicking a cat than other players and fans, and just overall uproar and overall media press than racism?
Right.
I love when everyone pushes that button, because it's just like, yeah, exactly. Let's put this back in perspective.
Both are bad. I mean, there's not.
Both are bad.
Both are bad. I'm not like into. I'm not gonna.
You're not into kicking cats?
I'm not gonna speculate on what's worse, because there's not really. It's apples and oranges to me. But in terms of the backlash of it, it was. They did like lose a lot of money based on this whole how they handled it, and they handled it very poorly.
When you say apples and oranges, you mean cats and racism?
Cats and racism.
Can't really compare them. Anyway. The last game of this week, because the Chelsea-Leicester game is postponed, and I believe that is postponed probably because Chelsea play in the next week in the FA Cup, or the League Cup. I think that's why, because Chelsea plays in the League Cup against Liverpool soon. I think
the final.
That final's coming up. I believe that's even Monday. So the final game of this week, which will actually be played on Wednesday, is Arsenal-Liverpool. So Arsenal will play Wolves midweek this week. We'll see what happens. And then they play Liverpool. Now, they're going to play Liverpool at the Emirates. What do you think happens on this game? Because I was
wrong. I just mentioned I thought the last game of the week was the Wolves-West Ham game.
Yeah, it's not. The Liverpool game got pushed back. I'm not sure why like they're a little off.
So they're playing a midweek game, but it's still week 27?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
It's still part of week 27. So, sorry, actually, no. My bad. It is actually slated. Excuse me. It's actually slated for March 16th, and I think that is because I'm actually not even sure. This is why the premise is so difficult. So this game won't be played literally for a long time.
We're not going to talk about it.
We're not going to talk about it.
No.
Okay, we're not talking.
I don't want to talk about it. It's 3 weeks away.
You want to talk about fantasy?
I don't. I mean, I do. I mean, we're going to talk about it.
Actually, what we can talk about is the fact that our biggest hater, the podcast's biggest hater, Jonathan Scheimer, a.k.a. John Scheimer, a.k.a. Scheimer, no longer listens to us because of the way that we've treated his beloved team, the Gooners, a.k.a. the Gunners. Jeff, what do you think about this?
He only wants to listen to. He likes to living in an echo chamber of greatness, like all Arsenal fans, because he doesn't want to hear the critiques of his great story.
Echo chamber of greatness. Is that where he just like when I picture this echo chamber, I picture literally like he's living in a bowl and he's sitting at a table with like Bergkamp, Youngberg, Vieira, Henry, and they're wearing their old O2 jerseys. Like he's living in the past. Is that what you're saying?
But he's also. But who else are also there? The guys from Arsenal TV.
Oh, AFTV is definitely at that table, just kind of roasting and vibing.
Yeah, and vibing and just kind of giving each other pats in the backs. And
have we been unfair to Arsenal?
Have we been unfair to Arsenal? That's a great question. I don't think we've been any more critical of Arsenal than we've been of other teams, particularly our own teams. Like I've said on this pod that Spurs are dog shit. You have criticized Chelsea for buying Lukaku and being general, just not being able to score. And we've basically, there was a whole running bit where we used to rag on Jorginho, in which we ate our words.
Yeah, I ate my words. I said Jorginho and Rudiger at 20, this time last year, before they bought Tuchel, I said sell him at a loss. And now Rudiger, Real Madrid wants, and Jorginho finishes third in the Ballon d'Or. So really, John, the more we hate on something, the better they do.
True. After you made that bet, Arsenal have only gotten better.
I made the bet. and for those of you who are listening to us for the first time and don't know about the bet is that if Arsenal finish 8th or higher, I send John Scheimer $100. If they finish 9th or lower, then he sends me $100 via Venmo. And that bet is still on. I'm feeling good about it. And to give hopefully John understands this. On my fantasy team, I have ML Smith Rowe because I still think he's still one of the best players in the Premier League. I just think the guy balls, man. He's so annoying to play against.
Yeah, I mean he can do whatever he wants. If he doesn't want to listen to our content and our weekly critiques of Arsenal, that's fine. But he needs to live in reality, right? And so I don't think any team below 3rd place right now, and even Chelsea's suspect, but I think any team below City, Liverpool, and Chelsea are not they don't get excused from critiques.
Yeah, and to be honest, we've spent a lot of time this pod critiquing Manchester City, which you could argue what Pep has done in the last 4 or 5 years. He's built a juggernaut in the Premier League. The likes of Alex Ferguson or with United about 15 years ago, the likes of Liverpool in the 70s or the 80s. So we're critiquing even the juggernauts, man. We're not.
And our last pod was called 4th Place Sludge.
He hated that. He hated that.
It's sludge, dude.
Because he thinks that saying that Wolves could finish higher than Arsenal is tantamount to saying the earth is round to flat earthers.
Yeah. I just don't think that there are teams that are like that outright. I think it's very frail. I think every team is, every week is hard for teams. Every week is they're scrapping. Every team is trying to get that 4th place spot. And Spurs had a great game yesterday, but they could easily flounder and drop 6 points in the next 2 games.
Because Spurs lost 9 points in the previous 3 games.
Yeah, and so it's very easy to go on a bad run of form and lose a bunch of games. We're not talking about the French League here. We're talking about the Premier League. And I know this is a Premier League podcast, but it's a cut above most of the other leagues. There is any week a team like Watford, Burnley, Newcastle can nick points off top teams, and it happens all the time.
So this is a first in the pod. We have a visit from Jeff's daughter in the mid-flow of either defending our thoughts on Arsenal. What's up, Nora? Okay, Nora, we're finishing recording. Do you want to say hi to the people?
Hi.
Do you want to say anything to them about soccer?
Yes. I like soccer because I like the colors.
The colors of what?
The colors of their shirt.
Of their jerseys? Like these ones? Mm-hmm. Okay, we're going to finish recording, okay? All right. Jeff, I don't know how much we have to do with fantasy this week because Oz is still in the lead. I will say, Nick Bailey, if you are listening, it is up to you, my dear friend. I went to college with both Nick and Oz, and I'm hoping that Nick can kind of pull it together to win because somebody has to beat Oz. Oz used to only be 30 points ahead of me, and then I checked, he's almost 200 points ahead of me. So
he's making all the right moves.
He's making all the right moves, and really what it comes down to is
Midas touch.
Midas touch. It's how you play your triple captain, and it's who you captain. That is super important. I captained Mason Mount, and it was so brutal. It was the worst.
I got a lot of moves to make this week. Hopefully I can vie for top 4. That's all I can really hope for now.
That's it. Well, we're here now with Nora, and Nora needs our attention, which is fine. She is probably one of the Boys and Bolos' biggest fans. So I guess we'll see what happens in week 27, Jeff.
We'll catch you next time, Jarrett.
Ciao.
Ciao. Thanks for listening to the Boys and Bolos podcast. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Patreon, Twitch at Boys and Bolos.
If you'd like to be a guest, please reach out. You can hit us on any of the social media accounts that Jeff just mentioned or email us directly at boysandbolos@gmail.com.
Thanks for listening and see you next time.